Dial the tunes back just for your viewing pleasure. Good evening, folks. My name is Zach. You are watching Arclight Miniatures. Happy little painting session. Raiders of the Lost Art Part 2. We're going to see how much of this raider we can crush through tonight. Got about 3 hours to work with. Just shy of. So, let's get to it. Before we begin, you can please take a look at my panels, head over to my Patreon. Please give me your spare shekels and spare change. As well, head over to my Instagram, Facebook. Follow me there if you're not already. Folks, Network, what's going on, man? Happy to see you in the chat. Big fan of your stuff. Also, do head over to Camel Specs Online. I do have that linked in my about information there. A lot of good stuff. The stream music tonight is going to be from Bits and Hits, as always. I have some Harris Heller music that I've been meaning to slam into a playlist. I just haven't gotten there. All right, I'm going to drop the mic volume on my PC mic, and we're going to hop over to the painting desk, and we'll kind of get into it. Alrighty, folks, a little bit loud. Let me drop the volume there for a second. Okay. So, I think we should be good to go. Okay, so there's a few changes that have happened to this thing in between when we streamed the last time and what they look like now. Earlier today I had a couple hours to kill, which is a rare thing in my house right now, with a little one not running around yet, but definitely making my wife and I run around. I went ahead and added some decals. So I did a gloss varnish all over on this, applied my decals, sealed again in gloss varnish, and then I applied an enamel wash. What I used for that was some AK Streaking Grime. I thinned this down a little bit with some White Spirit or Mineral Spirit. Depending on where you are, it's going to be called different things, but generally speaking in the hobby space, people are pretty familiar with this. I didn't thin it down much. All I would do is essentially dip the end of my brush, just touch it to the Mineral Spirit, and then I would dunk it quickly in my Streaking Grime and then wipe it all over until I needed to reapply. Just a very light thinning, and that just helped with it flowing into the recesses a little bit more. And then after it kind of set for about 10 minutes, I went in with some cotton swabs. Correction, not cotton swabs. That's what I used to use. I used to use my cotton swabs, but I like using sponge swabs instead. They're just a little bit more absorbent and they don't leave behind any errant cotton fibers. So that's why I like them. They're pretty good, and they get a nice, they're nice and flat, so especially on those flatter surfaces, it just cleans them up really well. Just giggling at Folks Network's comment. Yeah, I like this music. It's I've been playing through Diablo 2 Resurrected on my Nintendo Switch, so I've really been enjoying listening to this on the stream. We're going to do some more work on this autocannon barrel. I want to darken it. It's just a little bit too bright and yellow and orange. We're going to darken a lot of this. We'll still leave some yellow and orange in there, but I want to have a lot more red. And then I'm going to dry brush it a little bit more heavily towards the end of the barrels, and a little bit more towards the back, I think, just to add a little bit more of that kind of cooled, already metal look. But we will get there. Yeah, I've gone ahead and sealed these in some, well, it's a mix really of varnish. I do 1 drop of satin varnish to every 3 drops of ultra matte. I use AK varnishes. I do use Vallejo occasionally as well. That's what I use traditionally, but I've swapped over to the AK stuff just because I really like their ultra matte. That's a recipe I got from Vince Venturilla's channel. Yeah, it just works really well. Ultimately, matte varnish doesn't actually really protect your miniatures, it just changes the finish, whereas gloss and satin have a bit of a harder coat. They're nice and smooth, so they actually do protect your miniatures. So, yeah, doing that little bit of satin mixed in with the ultra matte just helps to give you a little bit of protection on the very final finish. Just gonna go ahead and wet my brush. I've already got some colors here on, wrong way. I've already got some colors on my wet palette. I just have my white ink, I have my black ink, and then I've also got my fluorescent yellow. This is like a Indian yellow, my fluorescent red, and then my flame red inks. Those are all translucent or transparent from Dowler & Rowney. It's their FW line. I'm just going to go ahead and get some of this red ink. I'm going to wipe off a little bit of the excess. Boom. Let's go ahead and zoom in. adjust my task lamp. My thumb and hand is getting in the way of the camera there. Just a little bit of fluorescent red into that mix, actually, just to keep it a little bit more vibrant for now. I don't want to darken it too much right off the top. Get this back centered. I'm just going to pull towards the end here because I want the most concentration of this little ink glaze that I'm doing to be towards the end of the barrels. I'm gonna add this color mix into all these grooves. I want these not as bright. Just shouldn't be so bright yellow and orange down here at the end. If you look at there's some really cool images that you can find on Google, and just looking on like military forums and stuff like that of machine guns when their barrels are piping red hot. They're usually hottest towards the chamber where the receiver is, and you'll have like that central hot spot that has like some yellow value to it, and then pretty quickly it drops off in a very steep gradient towards orange and red. Fun fact, when the barrel is that hot and you are firing through it, you can actually see the bullets pulsing through the hot spot on the barrel. Very cool to see. I may or may not have seen this in person more than a few times. May or may not have been one of the people firing it. Now we already have this previous little bit of stippling that we did with like the black gray and the metallics. It's totally fine for me to glaze over top of this. If anything, it's actually only going to help kind of sell that glow effect. So definitely not the end of the world that we're going over top of that. Let's get this back down in view. Might have got a little too heavy-handed. That's okay. I'm just going to go back in here with some water, flood it a little bit, and there we go. Cool. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and drop some fluorescent red, kind of just pure fluorescent red, into these muzzles and all the kind of this cross section in the middle, in between all the barrels. Eventually we'll go ahead and add some kind of bounce lighting just from this E-Glow. I'll add some like orangish red along here, but I really want to try to finish, there we go. Really want to try to get the rest of these values kind of in the gradient that I want before I go ahead and start doing that. It's looking pretty good. I'm a bit dehydrated, so I'm going to have some water. Water check. Drink if you're in the chat. It's interesting. I've never really considered what hand top painters tend to paint with. Yeah, I'm a heathen. I'm a lefty. I'm a southpaw. I'm actually I'm kind of ambidextrous with certain things. Writing and painting are definitely not one of them. But I'm a martial artist. I'm pretty ambidextrous when it comes to striking. When I throw a ball or hit a hockey puck with a hockey stick, I actually am right-handed. Same thing when I like pitch in baseball or swing a bat. Like I said, throwing a ball, so that, I guess pitching is kind of obvious. Just gonna go ahead and drop the brightness on this task lamp slightly. There we go. Not so much glare. Sure, that's a much better viewing experience on the other end of this. Yeah, if you're in sports or martial arts and you have the ability to take the time to train and become ambidextrous, it's such a huge asset. In martial arts, especially because you compete, quote unquote, in teams and you train in teams, but it's still a very individual sport. So any little tricks you can kind of pop out on your opponent, especially if you're ambidextrous, super hard to deal with. Especially you spend first half of your first round in an orthodox stance, and all of a sudden you switch up to southpaw. Bamboozled. It's definitely something I enjoy doing. Or when I'd be warming up, I'd whenever I'd be around opponents out in the open, because amateur boxing's weird like that. It's mostly kind of out in the open. You're doing it in like a high school gym or a community center or something like that. And sometimes you just have shared warm-up spaces. So in those instances, I was a big fan of warm-up orthodox, and then when they weren't around, do a little bit of southpaw warm-up. But whenever I was around them, just never let them see that left hand coming out as the dominant one. And it was always fun getting into the ring with just being in the orthodox stance, and the moment the bell rings, step forwards into a southpaw stance. Just see that little quick reset in their head going, wait, what? I imagine soccer, though, that would be super useful, just because, especially when it comes to trying to kick on net, you have more options available to you, more paths to the net, more angles you can work with, especially just being accurate when it comes to passing. I'm sure that's a huge thing as well. It's good to hear. Yeah, I'm using a Sony's ZV-E10. It's a vlogging camera, but it shoots in 4K, so it digitally compresses to 1080. But yeah, so far so good when it comes to the image quality. I'm pretty happy with it. Happy to hear that you're having good viewing quality on your phone. That's always a tricky one, I find. Thinking about what color tone I want to add into this area, how dark I want to make it. I think I'm just going to go in there right now with pure fluorescent red. We'll just see how that looks. Because at least the fluorescent red still has some pretty vibrant pigments. It shouldn't darken that fluorescent yellow too much, but we do need something other than just fluorescent yellow there. I did get my Kickstarter. I have not taken any obligatory layout shots of all my stuff. I actually just literally checked it to make sure it was all there. And then water break. Drink water in the chat. Yeah, check to make sure it was all there. And put it into a rough tote. I have a ton of other things that are sitting in my pile of shame that are partially painted right now, so I'm probably going to try to work through those first. But I definitely, funny enough, so I got one of the Clan Overlord drop ships. I'm actually kind of excited to paint one of those. It's just the map scale, but I've never painted an official dropship, and I think it would be kind of fun to paint and add to the CSO site. So we don't really have too many dropships on there. We have a lot of the fleet scale ones for battle space and aerospace, but to my knowledge, I don't really think we have any of the map scale dropships on there, and if we do, it's very, very few. I also am super stoked to paint that large scale Timberwolf, the 100mm one. Probably going to paint that in Clan Nova Cat Alpha Galaxy, so I can do a lot of airbrush work and do some cool stars and nebula, all that good shit. Still going in just here with the pure fluorescent red ink. It is translucent, so it does take some layering up with those glazes, but I really do like that because it's really easy to avoid applying too much, if that makes sense. It's always pretty guaranteed that you're going to get it just right. Alright, I'm starting to get like a nice, I gotta let that dry a little bit, but I'm starting to get to like the tone that I want. I'm gonna try to get the same up here. Maybe a little bit darker. Get that to focus. Yeah, I was actually excited for the dice. The dice I got seemed to be in, of pretty good standard and quality. Definitely a lot nicer than the really crappy, uneven, unbalanced Ghost Bear dice I got in the last Kickstarter. I don't know who they got to make those, but they were pretty bad. But these ones are definitely pretty nice. I don't, haven't taken a super close look at them, but just at a glance, they look way nicer. So I definitely like the accessories. You're a rounded corner dice person? I've never really had a preference, to be perfectly honest. The opposite. Okay, I see. I definitely find like square corners remind me more of like casino dice. Not that I'm a big casino goer by any means, but every time I see, casinos and movies, they always have the classic translucent red square corner dice that they're tossing on the craps table, or more iconic, I guess. Now that you mention it, I do have, I would say that my favorite pair of dice to use out of the many dice that I have are like just a couple, just a pair of classic square corner white dice with black dots. They just feel the nicest. I don't know, like they feel the densest, the most solid. They feel pretty good. But that said, I do have a bunch of really pretty and vibrant, many different colors of the smaller round corner dice that you buy in like a Chessex brick. I definitely enjoy those too. I would love to play Aces on the stream. I wish I still lived in southern Ontario for that. I've been living out in western Manitoba since 2018. Prior to that, I was living in the Whitchurch, Stouffville area, just northeast of Markham, Ontario, for like 7 years, 8 years. 8 years, 2010 to 2018. Definitely miss it. I don't miss the huge amount of people, but I definitely miss having lots of stuff to do. And I was an airsoft dweeb back then, so a lot of airsoft and lots of tabletop gaming. Not that I did a lot of tabletop gaming, but. Oh, play remote. I would definitely be down to do that. Alright, this is starting to look a lot better. A lot closer to what I would like it to be. I think I'm going to dry brush this just a little bit more. Maybe I'll just stipple. I think I'll just stipple and edge highlight. That might just be the easiest bet. I'm gonna go ahead and get some more black gray. Yeah, my worry is it might be a little too molten, like it's about to melt and fall apart. Although, it's a raider, it's probably on a suicide mission, so it's probably just holding down left mouse button and trying to kill. Alright. You know what? I'm already getting raspy again. Water break. Speaking of molten, I had the desire lately to get some Word of Blake, the Celestials. I'd love to do some molten rock bases. I think that'd be pretty snazzy. I'm just stippling gently here, kind of on all the exteriors of the barrels. I already do have some dark stuff on here, but I'm just kind of amplifying it a little bit because I want... Oh no, I got that definitely in the wrong area. I might have to go back in there and fix that complete. That's annoying. So I was being sloppy. And you can see that nice little dark dot right where it's supposed to be nice and hot. That's annoying. As you can see, I'm not impervious to failures like this. No mistakes, only happy accidents. Am I right? Alright, well, you're going to watch me fix this live. I'm going to go ahead and I'm literally just going to tap this with a little bit of white. Just very gently. This is slightly thinned white ink. Just gently covering that. And then I'm just going to go back in with this mix of fluorescent red and flame red ink. the trick. See if we can get that to focus. And I'm gonna call that good enough. I think that's about fixed. Remember, if you ever make mistakes, don't panic. You just have to do what you already did again. No big deal. I'm gonna be a lot more careful now, so I don't end up poking my brush right in the middle there. That was just awful. Really happy it wasn't any bigger than it was. Just kind of hitting this outer kind of containing ring for these barrels as well. Oops. Gotta be careful not to get into that crevice as well. And I've got a little bit of a nub of paint glued, or glued? That would be awful. Just stuck on there, dried. Got a question for you. Obviously, with Catalyst Minis, you're just pulling the arms, but are you cutting the model apart for a printed model, or are you removing the arms after print, but before cure? Neither. I just paint the miniature as is. I don't often disassemble my miniatures. This is not a Catalyst Mini. This is a Iron Wind Metals Mini. So this is a pewter miniature kit. I've magnetized the arms. The right arm anyway is magnetized. Everything else is fixed in place. But I have this arm magnetized and this arm magnetized, so I can swap between the two. Yeah. I definitely like the Iron Wind Metals kit just for that. Like, they're pretty good for adding in. What am I doing? Pretty good for adding in magnets and stuff like that. Just because they're already disassembled, and I find pewter to be pretty forgiving when you're modifying it. And I like to modify my pewter kits with, like, I have probably 2 or 3 dozen Catalyst Minis that I've chopped up for parts just from my last Kickstarter, the Clan Invasion one. So I love using those plastic pieces and adding them on to the metal chassis, like the torso and legs. Darken this a little bit up here. I'm gonna add just a little bit more flame red ink into the mix just for this top bit. Probably hear my daughter in the background there. She's woken up from her nap, evidently. And my wife is being a gem and taking care of her right now. She's unfortunately a very unhappy baby. She just had some vaccinations the other day and had a tongue and lip tie release last week, so she had that cut up inside her mouth. We've been having to stretch her mouth, like her tongue and lip, 5 times a day. And that with the vaccine, she's a cranky baby. I just saw the comment about the I want the lambs. I want lambs too. Actually, people hate on lambs. I think they're fun. They're silly and ridiculous. I don't really understand the lamb hate. Most of the BattleTech universe is pretty ridiculous as a whole. Good for right now. Just going to go ahead and want to add just a little bit. See if I can edge highlight a little bit around the muzzle board, like the board of the muzzle. Or sorry, the muzzle of the bore, muzzle of the barrel. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm a firearms expert. Well, CGL did make the urban mech one, but I don't know. I would like them to make like the Stinger Lamb and the Shadowhawk Lamb. I think those would be cool. This might be good. I don't think I'm gonna fuss too much with this barrel anymore. This is looking pretty damn good. Pretty happy with this. Let's move on to some other stuff, because we do have a lot more things to paint on this. Okay. Hydration check. What paint scheme do you think you're going to do the urban mech up in? Are you going to do it in like the classic, the pirate scheme that CGL always uses for their inflatable Irby, or you're going to do it in something different? Okay. Now, what I am going to do here before I start getting into no, so okay, what we're going to do is I'm going to do some edge highlights by way of lazy dry brushing, just on kind of all of these armor panels, the colored ones, just to, I'm going to do it with like a gray, like a mid to light tone gray, and that is going to be like edge wear, paint's kind of wearing down to the primer coat below, and from there, after I do that, I'm going to go and just do some base coats on the base, just because, especially on the soil, some of that will take a little bit of time to dry, and from there we'll go back to those edges. I'll accentuate some of those scratches and nicks and stuff more, and fill some of those in with like darker color to give the impression that things have gouged through to the metal, like the base armor plating. And then once that's done, everything should be nice and dry on the base, and we can probably start smashing through some of those details, like the shot up wall, the little jersey barrier, and the barrel. Just simple things, but they're nice little accents on like a destroyed urban base. So, alrighty, I'll go ahead and grab my little dry brush. Merrick, eh? Any specific unit within Merrick? Just give me 1 second, folks. Okay, folks. I just wanted to make sure that my wife didn't need a hand. My baby is very, very fussy right now. But she seems to have it under control for now, so we continue. Okay, so we have some options for the gray here. I could mix two tones, or I could just say screw it and just do one. I'm probably gonna mix two. I do like Sky Gray from Vallejo Model Color. It seems like an off-white, but it's actually a bit darker than that. It's just based, the lighting here, it's pretty bright, but it is a little bit darker than an off-white. It's just a very light gray. And then I do have some Vallejo Model Color light gray. I'm probably gonna mix these. I will mix them on my wet palette. And I'm probably going to use a smaller dry brush. And I do have a bit of a clog in this one. I'm going to go ahead and poke this so I don't end up with a bunch of paint exploding out. That's never fun. I'm going to have to pick up some more of this Sky Gray. I'm actually running quite low, and it is pretty thin inside the bottle. There we go. As far as Vallejo Model Color Gray, it's very, very thin out of the bottle, at least this batch is. I'm going to swap to a smaller dry brush just because I try to avoid getting this on the metallics and stuff like that, so that would have been a bit of a no oversight. I'm going to go ahead and just rub this out on my giggity. And I rub this out on my paper towel. Oops. Really trying to make sure I get all that excess off. I ended up getting quite a bit up towards the ferrule. That's not a great thing, but screw it. It's probably good. Alright. I'm just going to be very ginger with how I attack some of these edges. Just trying to hit like those highest edges and kind of the forward ones. Definitely doesn't need to be all of them. If you're hitting all the edges, then it'll definitely look really weird. It's not really going to sell the physical wear effect that I'm going to be trying to go for here. So just keep that in mind. And I can go in here and like stipple and scratch with my normal sable brush, which I will do. Just a few here and there. Just very gentle. I'm going to go hit this other arm. Oops. Try to get that in focus. I'm going to be very careful not to come up over to here, just because I don't want to ruin the work I've done on the barrels. This one I'm not really going to have too edge highlighted with this, or razzle dazzle with the dry brush. Okay, that's probably good for that. I'm just going to go ahead and get a touch more of this on my brush. American Militia, most likely. I need to do at least a company worth of FWL units for con events and shows. Nice. I've more, like I have multiple armies, and like I hardly ever play. It's kind of hilarious. I really wish, that's another reason I wish I still lived in Toronto. There's always conventions and big events. I could go slug it out with some of my stuff. I definitely enjoy some of the stuff that you bring to conventions. Definitely love your table setups. I gotta get a little bit more of the paint off of this, I think. This is weird. It wasn't coming off the way I wanted to. Get a lot of that off there. This gray might not be quite bright enough. I thought it would be, just because I definitely toned down the rest of the armor plating on the khaki areas with the enamel wash. But you know what, this might be good enough. It doesn't need to be fantastic. We're not going for like a crazy display level miniature here. We're just trying to get something painted up. I really try to make sure I get a lot around the feet, just because the feet would see obviously a lot more kind of physical wear than anywhere else. Same with the lower legs. Okay. I'll go ahead and get just a little bit more on my brush, and then I'm going to hit this red. Super gently on this red. You really don't need much if you're doing this. You can easily go overboard with dry brushing gray onto your red. So be very, very wary about how much pressure you apply, and not just that, but how much paint is on your dry brush. I'm gonna probably do a lot more just normal brush work on this red. If I do want to, let's actually get that in focus. If I do want to have some pretty stark physical wear, just because I'll be able to be a little bit more accurate. Okay, I think that's probably good. I don't need to do any more. That's pretty good. I think I'm going to go in with just a slightly brighter tone on that khaki. I think I'm going to do, I have what is kind of a warm off-white. Let's see if I can use this. Sorry, my camera freaking out on the autofocus is because I'm literally rocking my camera by shaking the bottle. Oh, 100%, man. I totally agree. Like one of the only reasons I went pretty hard in the paint on. I have like 4 tables worth of stuff, like dense tables too. And it's just I love the variety, and I love having a super cool looking table. Different environments too, like I don't know, like I especially with Aces is super fun that way, that you can essentially like do a mech warrior campaign of sorts. Let me get that in focus. Almost a mech warrior campaign of sorts, just with your, playing with yourself. don't want to get too heavy-handed with this lighter color. So again, I could really ruin some of my previous work. Okay, I think that's about good. I'm gonna go ahead and clean off that dry brush. Oops. Yeah, I'll be honest, I haven't played, I've only played with the initial beta rules. I haven't tried any of the new stuff. Hydration check. My bottle's almost empty. And now my bottle is empty. I'll have to top that up in like 15 minutes. Alright. Crack your fingers for Jesus. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and start putting some base colors on the base. I'm probably going to do the features first, and then I will do the ground. That just makes most sense to me. I'll probably do the road first, actually. I'll do just the road, then I'll do all the other features, then I'll do the soil. I'm going to be doing like some pretty heavily thin paint on the soil, just to get a bit more of a natural kind of blend and look. So it'll take a little bit longer to dry, and if a little bit of that is kind of tide marking onto the very edges of the road, it'll actually kind of look like dust and look pretty good. So let's do that. Okay, for the road, I'm just going to use that black gray from Vallejo. Pardon me. Go all the way in and slightly back out. Okay. I'm going to use a different brush than that detailing brush. I'm going to use... This is technically a number 1 from Vallejo, but it's basically the same size as the number 2 I was just using. Just put a little bit of water in my brush, and I'm just kind of swirling around my paint on the wet palette. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm probably going to paint over top of the Jersey barrier with this color as well. Wow, that is very dry paint. Keep my brush kind of as flat as possible as I poke it under the edges of the foot. Just like that. And you can kind of see see if I can get my brush in focus. My brush is actually kind of flat now. And that's just for me kind of pushing against the surface at a very shallow angle. Thin this down just a little bit, and let's get back in there. Luckily, a lot of the ground covering here is already pretty brown. I'm going to be adding in like a bit of a ruddy brown. It's Bloodstone from Formula P3, and it it just has like a really nice red tone to it. Like if you're thinking like Martian soil, it's very, very nice as a base color for that to build upon. I do my best not to slap this all over the soil, just because I already have a lot of earth tone there. Don't really need to step on it too much. Just make myself have to do more work. I'm going to avoid getting some on the barrel as well, because I'm essentially going to paint the barrel mostly in Bloodstone, and then I'm going to dry brush it to make it look nice and rusty. And I'm literally, it's just odd hand positions 101. I'm literally bracing this hand on, like using a stiff pinky, like a locked out pinky against this thumb. And it's actually very stable. I'll actually zoom that out so you folks can see what I'm doing. Whoops. Just like that. That's a pretty good little brace. I actually have very, I would say, shaky hands, so I pretty much have to brace when I'm doing anything painting related. So finding little positions like that is definitely helpful. Go ahead and zoom this back in. Objectives, indirect fire, commander decks. Commander decks? Ooh. So you get some like special perks or something from that, or please. Desire to know more intensifies. Oh man, my daughter's just not having a good time of it right now. Just be forewarned, I did offer my wife my help, and I told her if she does need a hand, come grab me, so if I have to disappear for 15 minutes, it just might happen. But that's what teamwork is. Thankfully, my wife and I have a pretty good system right now. We just kind of take a couple hours, for a shift, let the other person do their thing. Maybe we spend time with each other during that, that shift. But if the other person wants to go work out or go read or just sit in silence, it's free to do whatever. Because we both like our personal time. I think everybody does, especially when you have a very demanding child in the house. It's always nice to have a bit of a, you got that little, like, hey, like in a couple hours I'll have a couple hours myself. It's pretty nice. Go ahead and rotate this a little bit on the holder just so I can get in at a slightly better angle along this little rubble pile. I'm just going to go ahead and change the tunes here, folks. I'm going to change it to a different playlist. This is definitely like the second, it's like 2.5 run-throughs of this one by now. Palrone43, yes, I will be putting that up on YouTube. I just have not had a chance to. I've been rather busy the last few days, unfortunately, so I will put that up in the next day or two. Promise. Same with the recording for this stream as well. Keep my camera from shaking too much. Go ahead and hit that jersey barrier. here. Okay. Just a little bit more on this end of the road. Just some areas that the paint was a little bit thin, so it's not quite an opaque coverage. Just gonna go back in here with a little bit more. So we got the road blocked in. I have not tried the AK asphalt. I'm assuming you're referring to their texture paste, correct? Yeah, I have not tried it. I might actually give it a go on some Warhammer miniatures I'm going to be working on. I have some Tyranids that are all getting urban bases, so I was thinking about utilizing some of that. But I don't know, for me, I feel like at Battletech scale, like at 6mm scale, it's maybe a little bit too gritty. Maybe that's just me. I don't know, I've actually never seen or used it in person. I've only ever seen photos or videos of it, but it seems to me like it would be best used just as like a normal ground covering, not necessarily, oops, let's get this in frame. Maybe not necessarily asphalt, but it's very fine. Yeah, maybe I'll have to pick some up and try it. Use it on my Tyranids and see if it would work well as well for Battletech. Just going ahead and painting these destroyed walls a gray tone. Also going to add I'm going to add some gray into, yeah, I'm going to add a little bit of gray into, I think, some of the soil, just to kind of give the impression of a little bit of rubble. But, yeah. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and grab basalt gray. Yeah, let's do basalt gray. This is going to be the next color that I layer up on the Jersey barrier. It's a bit of a cold gray, kind of like a, I don't know, a little bit, it's darker than a mid-tone. Still, it's on the darker side of things. Fairly dry paint, so I gotta add quite a bit of water to my brush. Fairly dry paint. Weird. I actually haven't used this paint too much. I've only used it on some bases for some mechs I was working on recently, which I can't talk about yet. If you're going to Gen Con at all, you will little seed in there. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Gen Con will actually be my first big gaming convention, funny enough. Traveling internationally for it. Just trying to do my best here not to get any of this basalt gray on the asphalt. Not that it's a hard fix, because I haven't done any blending or anything. I'm just trying to avoid mistakes. Yeah, my daughter is pissed right now. I'm not sure why. Maybe she's just waiting to be fed. Who knows? This last little side of the Jersey barrier, and then we'll hit the walls as well. Just got this little edge in here that I want to hit with the gray. Cool. It's starting to come together. Wall a little bit. I have this thinned down quite a bit. Just going to kind of pull towards the top, so hopefully the paint's just a little bit brighter at the top of the wall. Not really a glaze, it's definitely thicker than that, but this is a very thin basalt gray. Just like so. Hit all these broken edges. And I will go back in with some kind of weathering stuff, or weathering techniques, just around like the fake bullet holes and all that good stuff. Oh man. Kills me to hear my daughter cry. Pardon the angle there, I just had to get the other side of the wall. It's looking pretty good now. Nice, I'll make sure Tommy and Josh come and see you. They will be there. Awesome. Yeah, I'll be playing the Battletech Championship Circuit and on the Saturday, and then Friday I'm just doing pickup games with a couple of the other CSO guys. Thursday I'm doing like the Battletech Academy for Alpha Strike, just to make sure I'm not right out of her on some of the rules, because I've only ever played with a couple friends and my wife. But pretty sure I know how to read a rules book, but you know, always good just to make sure, clarify any things that I might not be sure of. And then I'm going to play in one of their themed events on Thursday. That'll be pretty fun. Good way to toss some dice and meet some people. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and layer up a slightly brighter gray. I'm going to go with neutral gray from Vallejo. Actually, no. I'm going to go, yeah, we'll do the neutral gray. It's a bit brighter. I was going to go to like a light gray, but I think this is probably good enough. Oops. I'm gonna kind of load my paintbrush with a lot of water. I'm going to wipe off a little bit of excess paint. I just had to thin this quite a bit because it's pretty thick out of that bottle. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of hit the tops there. I'm going to thin this down just slightly more. Also very thin, so I'm going to kind of pull towards the top. I don't want it to pool, so I'll kind of tease that off there, but I definitely want that to dry just a little bit more brightly towards the top. Just going to blow on that slightly. Just going to add a slight bit of another layer there. Get a little bit of water on my brush. I'm just going to feather this. That didn't really work out how I wanted to. But actually, that's pretty good. It reactivated the paint a little bit. Pull that back to the top. A little bit more of the thin neutral gray. Go ahead and add the neutral gray to the top. Try not to get it in like all the nooks and crannies around those two little top points. Trying to leave some of that shading in there. Hitting that edge there a little bit heavy, just like that. Just kind of the top corner. Edge highlight along the top side. Oops. Kind of hit up along this edge there. Now I'm gonna swipe up right here and kind of place the adjacent highlights beside there. Again, just kind of swiping up and leaving a bit of that darker gray showing through towards the bottom. This side. That's about good there. Now I'm going to kind of repeat the process on the other side of the Jersey barrier. And the walls we're not really going to hit too much with this neutral gray. We're going to just mostly kind of hit the edges and do a couple little scratches and dings. That's about it. And the reason being, I want the walls to be darker and dingier. I'm going to add a little bit of enamel wash to them afterwards. Just in some select spots, just to make them a little bit grimy, like they've been destroyed for a little while. Maybe the local vagrants have come and peed on them or taken poops next to them, and might even add a little bit of graffiti. Who knows? Just going to kind of hit along this little edge here. realize I gotta hit the front section of this wall here. Oops. Got it right in that dark recess. That's okay. Flood it with a little bit of water and wipe it away. Not the end of the world. Oh wow, I actually stripped a little bit of the paint with the water there. I don't know if you can see that. It's actually brown. It's the brown paint layer below it. Funny enough, that's the layer that was varnished, so I might have actually pushed through that further if that layer below wasn't varnished. But that's totally fine, because we can just come back in. I'm just going to go ahead with the dark gray. That black gray. Fill that spot in. Come back in with the basalt. Kind of hit around the edges. Leave that kind of little blast mark that's in there. Boom. And go back in with the neutral gray and just kind of edge highlight where we need to. I'm gonna kind of hit this little positive slope there, or I guess it's a negative slope. The little slanted bit. I don't know what I'm saying. Go ahead and hit that edge, and we'll hit kind of that edge facing the foot. Okay, we'll go ahead and just kind of clean up a little bit. Just trying to ease this transition here just because it's a little bit rough. Some of that excess moisture off my hand. Just kind of blowing on that so I dry the previous layer. Just kind of tapping there. And oops. Hitting that little raised edge. Boom. And just trying to hit the edges on either side of those little ribs, little support portions. Boom. 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 And one more to do here. Just like that. There we go. Jersey barrier done. Quick and easy. So make sure this little streak there, I'm just going to clean that up. Cool. And then just going to come in with that neutral gray, just going to hit these edges. Trying to see on the side, the side of the wall in between the wall and the mech. So I was Sometimes I create myself little puzzles that I have to work within whenever I'm basing miniatures. Sometimes I kind of back myself into corners or tight spaces. I think that's probably good. Doesn't need to be crazy detailed, just a few little marks here and there on the sides. And we'll just hit the top of this. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and thin down some bloodstone. I'll show you what this looks like. This is a Formula P3. So it's actually liquid pigments. And this is a super smooth paint. I really enjoy Formula P3 paints. Hey, Journeyman Paint Tower, what's going on, buddy? Happy to see you in the stream again. Oops. Okay. Take my dirty water, put it in there. Just gonna pulling. If you can see on my palette here, I'm just kind of pulling the thinner paint away. I want this quite watery. So I've got a decent amount on my brush here. And you can see it's quite watery. I'm going to go ahead and just start kind of running this over. I'm not going to cover everything, and you'll see why in a second. I'm going to go ahead and I rinse my brush, and then I have a bit of water here. I'm just going to touch that to my paper towel. So now the water is, you can kind of see right there how much water I have. A little bubble, and I'm just going to go ahead and start scrubbing my brush tip into the still wet paint that I just applied. Some of it's kind of drying already, but that's okay. I'm just going to grab just a little bit more water, and we're going to make sure that it doesn't dry. Boom, just like so. I'm kind of washing it over this lower section of the wall as well, and I'm not kind of saturating this area around the wall because I want that to be a little desaturated to kind of make it look like rubble dust from the wall has kind of mixed in with the surrounding soil. Soil should never really be uniform. That's something you should probably get away from. If you just have like two tones present, like you have like a base layer and a dry brush, definitely add some more tones to the base layers, and you'll get a lot more visual interest with not a whole lot of work. Actually, I'm going to leave those ones in the middle a little bit more neutral. This side I'm going to leave more neutral too. I'm going to kind of keep the side near the road, but this area I'm not going to saturate too much. I'm going to add a little bit of a thin gray to that as well, but some of these areas I don't want to fill with too much brown ruddy tones. Add a little bit of moisture to my brush, tap it in, and I'm just kind of letting capillary action do its thing. Okay, I'm gonna grab some, I'm gonna really thin down some of that basalt gray, and then I'm gonna do the same over here. Oops. And just wetting it so it kind of runs into the recesses there, just like so. And I'm gonna add just a touch to this spot here, and then I'm gonna add a little bit to the stuff that's in the road. That way it looks more like blasted rubble and not soil. You know, once you're in a war-torn area for long enough, I mean, I look at a lot of stuff that's going on in the Ukraine right now, and you know, in many areas like Volodar and Luhansk and Bakhmut, you
can't really tell where rubble begins and soil ends. It's all just mixed together at this point. Once this dries, it'll dry a little bit darker than you see it right now, and then I will do a little bit of dry brushing on those areas. But I'm just going to kind of leave that there for now. I'm going to go in with this bloodstone and just base layer the oil drum. It's going to be quite a, and as you can see, this goes on super smooth and it's very vibrant. That's why I really, really, really love Formula P3 paints for this reason. Pretty much every Formula P3 paint that I have, it's not many right now, but I have like 5 or 6. They all cover very, very well on a first coat, and they'll thin very well. They're all very smooth. Highly recommend them. I don't get paid anything from them, though I wish I did. I'm just giving them free advertising to the handful of folks that are stopping by to listen to me for a while. Try and turn this around so I can get the back side of this. Sorry, you folks are just not going to be able to see this that well. And not because I'm not trying to hold this in the middle. I just damn the angle. Oh, okay. It's good coverage. We'll let that dry. Boom, boom, boom. Pretty good. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and set this down. I'm just going to go top my water up, folks. Be right back. I suggest you do the same. Dehydration's a soldier's worst enemy. folks. And we're back. Top my water up. I've already had some big gulps out of it. I'm a thirsty boy. Alright. Just gonna go ahead and clean my glasses quickly. Big stupid monkey paws. I got a couple fingerprints on them, just trying to correct the position of my head. There we go. Okay. Ah, where were we? Oh yes, ground tones. Okay. Ground tones are looking pretty good. Like that'll be good enough to dry brush afterwards. I'm just gonna go ahead and add a tiny little bit of the bloodstone right here. I just noticed an area that needs a little reinforcement. Okay. So, one thing I did want to do is I want to, before we go on and add a few scratches and dings, I just want to go in and rust up the blades on the little cross-cut arm that the Raider has. We're just going to dirty this up. I'm just going to zoom this out slightly, and I am going to grab just a little bit of chocolate brown. I want to add this to my palette. I'm going to use the chocolate brown and the bloodstone. Just going to very gently, I'm going to use a lot more chocolate brown than bloodstone, but I want to stipple just kind of on the sides of the blades, not where the actual working blade is, like the cutting blade, or the cutting edge rather, but just kind of the areas just on the sides. You'll see what I mean in a second. Go ahead and change brushes here back to my Ammo Marta Kolinsky brush. It's a number 2. It's kind of my go-to for everything detail-wise. Sorry, I'm just adding a little bit of water to this chocolate brown and pushing it around. There we go. Thankfully, some of the enamel wash has already dirtied this up for us. Just want to add a little bit more along the sides here. I can be fairly liberal with this brown. I'll be a little bit more conservative with the bloodstone. I'm going to go ahead and do this to both blades and both sides. Doesn't need to completely fill it. I'm gonna swap over to the other side here. Adding a slight bit more of the chocolate brown to my brush. And I'm just kind of poking and stippling. I'm trying to leave that, I'm trying to leave this metallic edge along there, so I'm kind of stippling more towards the inside where this black line recesses. And the reason being, working edges generally don't really keep much rust on them. It tends to wear away. And we'll do the last side. Paint is drying on my brush. I'm just trying to get the last little bits out here. I think that's about good. Don't need to fuss with that too much. I'm just going to go and Add a little bit of the bloodstone, dude. Bloodstone. Not thinned at all. And I'm just going to gently kind of work within the brown areas. And this is just going to brighten that kind of rust brown look up a little bit. I'm going to add a small bit of metallic along the edge of the blade just to reinforce the shine and make it brighter. I'm going to kind of go along all these little prongs on the blade just to make it look extra shiny. Just plucking a little nub of pigment off the end of my brush that dried there. Get some more of this bloodstone and stipple on this side. Oops. Of course I stipple near the top edge there, that's okay. It's not all the areas need to be like as orange. Rust isn't uniform, so it shouldn't necessarily be uniform on the miniature. It's hard to avoid uniformity when you're doing things like this because the human brain likes things to look uniform. I'm just going to go ahead and grab a little bit of the chocolate brown and just kind of dampen out some of the areas. Kind of fill out a little bit more of the side of the blade. Okay. Yeah, that's about good. Don't need to fuss around with that too much. I'll go ahead and grab some shining silver. Actually, I'm going to use my Pro Acryl silver. Just going to get a little wee dab on the palette. I'm going to pick up my Vallejo number 1 to do this. Not really thinning this. Just trying to come along that edge. Raised blade sections just very gently. I'm almost dry brushing at this point with the brush, just like that. It's just nice, a lot brighter and shinier now. It's the small things when it comes to painting miniatures like this, and little things like this. Like, I'm not going to beat the hell out of a lot of detail on this miniature, but just picking a few areas to do a little bit of extra work on definitely goes a long way. I kind of like how I'm leaving this little gap in between the edge and the blade prongs. It just gives a little bit of extra contrast in that area, which I like. I like it a lot. I'm going to try and brace myself here a little bit more gracefully. Alright, so that's about done for that side. Looks pretty good, eh? Look at that. Nice. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do the same on the other side. Oh boy. Okay. This is going to be just a bit of a little bit more challenging just because of the angle that I'm working at here. I think I'm gonna have to come at it from above, potentially. Yes, I'm doing this. Touch my finger, bro. Support me. Try to actually get this in camera here. This side probably won't look as clean. It doesn't look bad. I'm probably being harsh on myself. Just trying to hit my brush side on with this. See if I can brace it this way. Harden the angle. There we go. There, that's not so bad. Look at that. Cool. Alright. Blades done. Boom. Okay, that's looking pretty good. We're gonna go ahead and touch up some of these edges on the khaki. I'm gonna use this off-white. It's Scott. It's not sky gray. It is white gray. Crazy. Zoom in, just there we go. Just gonna refine a few of these edges. Just gonna kind of stipple along these edges. That way it's uneven. Stipple along the edges around the knee here. I'm going to be darkening these quite a bit, so I know these are like very bright, but I will be darkening these just with some stuff that I'm going to fill them in with. Kind of go along these edges on the foot. And I really enjoy this portion of the paint job, like doing weathering. I find it very organic. You just kind of wherever your brush lands, it's where you're weathering. Focus more so on the fronts of the feet because toes kick things, and I'm going to focus kind of on like the outsides of the lower legs because when mechs walk by buildings, vegetation, terrain, they oftentimes rub up against them. And the outsides and the outer lower extremities are what are going to hit things the most often and what are going to become the most scuffed. Just kind of scratching right now with this. It's hard to do just because I have these like raised rib portions on the side of the armor panel there on the lower leg. I was going to call it a shin, but it's technically not a shin, it's not a human. I digress. I'm going to go ahead and hit the fronts of the shin-like apparatus. The shin-like armor panel. Just like that. Just a light touch, nothing crazy. Go ahead and do the same on this side. Just a little bit. Again, I don't want it to be even. The less even it is, the more realistic it looks. And it does need to be a stark contrast like this, like having a nice bright color. It looks like you're punching through that, something's punched through that armor or scraped through it. So just had a little nub of varnish sticking onto the crotch. We'll probably leave the legs like that. I'm going to go ahead and grab some light gray and scratch up a little bit on the red. More so kind of along here. And again, I'm just kind of stippling and swiping. And you can definitely get a little too lost in the sauce when you are applying gray to a red, so definitely be wary. You do not need much to kind of get the desired effect, and doing too much will definitely ruin it. Yeah, I think that's probably good. We don't need a lot. Just a little bit around like the cuff area, because you know he's sawing through things. It's probably going to scratch up the wrist area of that. I'm going to probably do a couple fine scratch marks. Got a little bit of paint drying on my bristles there. There we go. Okay. I'm going to go ahead, just add a little bit of moisture to this light gray. See if I can show you folks. Just like that. A couple fine little scratches. I'm definitely going to hit one or two on this warning symbol, or the warning hazard mark. That's what it's called. Just so I can damage that up a little bit, and it'll actually, like, especially once I add some of the filler, like the dark color, to add a little bit of depth, it'll look a lot, it'll really bring the hazard marking into the paint job rather than it just being slapped on there. It's also why I like adding these decals before doing washes and stuff like that. It just helps to gently weather them. Alrighty, I'm gonna go ahead and touch up a little bit on these arms. We haven't really touched these arms in a bit. Just getting a little bit on the brush. And we're definitely gonna kind of get around the hands area. Again, keeping it less even is probably best. Tapping and kind of swiping randomly. It's usually the right call. Again, just going to kind of get around this cuff area. And see if we can get just like one nice, so that's like a very minor scratch. I'm going to see if I can get like one nice fine one that kind of intersects it. Draw some visual interest to this area. Oh, I need a little bit more on the brush. Let's get that back in focus, and let's try this once more. Scratch. Good to go. Okay. Just gonna go ahead and do a little bit of stippling, just kind of along this. To have that big of a gray blob back here, but that's okay. Again, no mistakes, only happy accidents. And I'm going to go ahead and make all this look dinged up as hell. Cool. little bit more modest on this one, just because we don't want to take attention away from that beautiful, beautiful smoke and barrel. What am I doing? There we go. Some more of that light gray. I'm going to kind of reinforce this little edge. Just that little lower edge I wanted to reinforce. I'm going to go ahead and kind of hit the tops of these. Whoops, let's get that in the camera, or in a frame rather. Going to hit the tops, just kind of stipple. Brush a bit, add a little bit of moisture to my brush, and get it back into that light gray. Just do one single little scratch, and then we'll hit just a few stipples around this area. And I think that's about it. We don't need any more than that. Okay. Now here's where the fun begins. Now we're gonna start making these look a little bit more three-dimensional, like they're not just little gray smudges. So we already have a little bit of black gray. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add just a slight amount more because we've used a little bit. This is still relatively shaken up. There we go. And a little bit of burnt umber ink from Dowler and Rowney. Go ahead and give this a good shake. And I just want the tiniest drop. I'm going to put it beside the gray, not on it. No sense in contaminating all of the black gray paint if I don't have to. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab a little bit of the black gray, move it off to the side, rinse the excess out, and go ahead and grab just a little bit more. Okay, I'm gonna just kind of run my brush through that, run off the excess a little bit. Okay, cool. So this is still mostly gray. Get all the way in and one out. There we go. Still mostly gray, but there is a bit of a brown hue to it now. Now I'm going to stipple within the areas of light gray, and then I'm just gently dragging this color kind of along that top edge of where that gray scratch is. And the reason is I want that to look like it's a shadow being cast over a gouge in the paint job or armor. You see how that kind of works there. And then as well, I'm going to kind of come along and just tap these edges, and it'll just look like the paint's been worn through on that spot. And less is more when you do this. 100% less is more. Just touching little corners and stuff, and that's, I'm going to do like a little bit right over here, and that's it for this one. That's it. That's all I'm doing. Just very lightly weathered. Little chips here and there. I'm going to go ahead and apply some on this. See if I can get this nice and fine. Oh, paint's dried a little bit on the brush. Rinse that off. just a wee one. Again, less is more. And I'm going to go ahead and I've got a few along the knuckle area of this hand. And along, let's get that in focus. There we go. Just trying to touch some of these edges that I hit before. And I'm just, again, trying to touch within the gray areas. That's really how you sell this effect. Just edge highlighting very gently within. There we go. So if I can zoom this in. Let's get this in focus. There we go. So you can kind of see the effect that I'm going for, especially with this one. Boom. It's pretty good. Got that little dark line just above and parallel to that grade line. Kind of gives that impression that this is a gouge and there's a shadow being cast. And then just a couple little dings and whatnot along there. Again, just kind of looks like tarnished metal showing through the paint because the paint's been scraped down to the metal below. Oh, still got a little bit. Let's bring this down here. Try to hold this a little bit lower so my camera doesn't freak out with the autofocus as much. Just really trying to hit that like sharpest corner. And then a little bit down here. Look at that. Okay. And we're moving on to the Mac itself. I'm just going to zoom out slightly. Let's start with the right leg. Definitely digging the spooky vibes of this tune right now. This is the World of Warcraft collection mix from Bits and Hits, by the way. Not a big World of Warcraft guy myself, but I definitely dig the lo-fi version of whatever music they're copying from World of Warcraft. Again, I'm just kind of touching within these areas that I've previously worked on. Just adding those tiny little chips and scrapes. And you don't need to do all of them. Tap this side of the shin there. Again, just tiny little dots and little scrapes and scratches and squiggles, and that will get you the job done. Very ginger and minor on this side, not a lot. So for the folks in chat, what you folks been working on this week? What's the most recent project? What are you still working on? Let me know. I'm curious to hear. I'm gonna go ahead and add just the final touches of the little weathering bit that I'm doing here to the left arm. touch this up here. We're gonna have to hit that thing. It's like a spotlight or something. Still debating how I'm gonna attack that thing. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and add just a little bit of chocolate brown to certain areas of the oil drum. Just because I want a little bit of variation in the brown. Again, rust is never uniform. So I'm just kind of slopping it up here. No real rhyme or reason, I'm just applying stuff kind of in random places. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and grab just a little bit of pig iron. My Vallejo number 1. This is the one I kind of reserved for just basic layering as well as metallics. Just a little bit of pigment dried in the tip of there. I just wanted to pull that off. Alright, I am going to go ahead and just kind of edge highlight most of this oil drum and then stipple a little bit randomly. Yeah. So just kind of going around the oil drum, hitting all these ribs on the oil drum itself. Okay, I think that's I've hit the circumference of it. And now I'm just going to kind of tap, tap, tap. Just all over. Alrighty. I think that's about good. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of black wash to the oil drum, just to tone everything down, including the ruddy brown that's on there. Add just a little bit of shading, and it'll make it look kind of dingy, which, you know, oil drums are dingy. That's what we're going for here. Thin this wash just very slightly. It's just a black wash from Vallejo. I normally prefer Army Painter Dark Tone, but I do not have it right now. Thinning this just slightly so I don't turn everything super dark. I'd rather apply this, let it dry, and then have to apply a little bit more than darken this too much, and then I'm just kind of shit out of luck. Alright. It's looking pretty snazzy. I'm going to go ahead and apply just a little bit of wash to, wrong brush, a little bit of thin wash just to the jersey barrier. Kind of stroking down with this. Add just a little bit of water and just kind of feather this a little bit. There's just some areas where I don't want it to collect on too much. I have this wash fairly heavily thinned right now, if you're wondering. Like, very heavily thinned. Almost glazing it into the recesses. Just kind of tap my brush. I'm just trying to get it into those little nooks and crannies for the most part, and these little crevices. Boom. Okay. Very modest. Alright, it's looking pretty good. Boom. Digging it. Alrighty. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick dry brush on the base. I'm going to do a little bit of of desert yellow. Back away so I don't shake my camera too much. Just curious why my camera is straining to autofocus right now. See if I can get that to stay. Okay. Weird. Oh, you know what? It's because I have it set to focus on a center zone. That's exactly what it is. So when I have it facing just the desktop here, it just doesn't really entirely know what to focus on. Alrighty. Oh, look at that. That's a nasty way to figure this out. Thanks, Vallejo. I'll have to, I have some other bottles left to steal a cat from that. Okay. I'm gonna add just a little bit of this to my palette. Just a wee bit. And I'm gonna dry brush the base. Let's go ahead and, I'll just zoom back in for now. That boy up. So you have something to look at while I finagle my paint. Okay, just gonna go ahead and kind of. I'm really gonna. This is desert yellow. I'm gonna focus it more so on the ruddy brown stuff. Same thing with over here. So kind of more the roadside area and away from the middle where the wall is. So I'm literally stroking away from that area. And I'm just going to gently dry brush stipple random areas on the pavement. It's not really leaving much, it's just very slightly dampening. You can kind of see a few areas where I've applied it, but it's very, very subtle. I'll go ahead and add just a little bit more to my brush. And I want to stipple just a little bit more. Trying to create the impression of a little bit of dust. I'm probably going to go in here with a few pigment powders at the very end just to kind of solidify that dusty look. And just kind of show you folks how I do it. It's usually at the end of a paint job. But yeah, that's more than enough. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and clean this, dry brush. And from there, to use the light gray mixed with the sky gray mixed with the light gray, and I'm going to do just a minor amount of dry brushing on some of the soil, very, very limited amount of the soil. I gotta get all the water out of this brush. I've still got a little bit of there. A little bit of the water in there, rather. Alright, we'll brush back up a little bit of paint. Just trying to see how this comes off on the paper towel. Just a little bit more. Okay. I'm gonna hit the stuff that's on the road. Just like that, very lightly. mainly because we added a bit of that like basalt thinned down into this. Again, I'm just kind of going to go back and forth right in here, and then all over this. So that's kind of the rubble side. So you can kind of see there's like the mixture of tones going on there. You got the warm earth tones, then you got a little bit of the colder concrete tones in there. I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of the stippling on the pavement with this as well, just to add kind of that mixture of the dusty look. So go ahead and kind of hit this all over. Okay. Not much more that needs to be done there. That's pretty simple. We don't need to do a huge amount. Cool. It's kind of nice. There was like a little bit of grit that ended up getting glued onto the roadway, and I ended up catching them with the dry brush. So it just looks like small individual rocks on the roadway. Pretty good. Digging it. I'm gonna go ahead and clean this dry brush one more time, and I think I'll be done with it. Might be done with it for tonight. I think we are. I might close the stream out just a little bit early tonight, folks, just because I don't know. I would not be able to get through the canopy and the little spotlight by 11. I might not quite get through the canopy by 11. I kind of want to do it in one cohesive bit rather than getting it halfway done and stopping. But what I'm going to do, because it is a bit of a satisfying step, I'm going to go ahead and paint the base rims black, and I'm going to tidy up just around the cockpit a little bit. I was a little bit sloppy with my application of black for the base coat. I'm also going to add some white kind of trimming highlights to the antenna. Let's do that thusly. I'm going to go ahead and just I want to make my antenna extra black with my black ink. Did get a little bit of the enamel wash just kind of all over certain areas, so some of the finish on the antennas is slightly different than, like, you know, the bottom. The finish on the bottom of the antennas is slightly different than the finish on the top. And look at me making a mess. I just got a tiny little bit of black ink on the back. I'm just flooding it with water rather to clean it up, and it seems to have worked reasonably well. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and grab a bit of white ink. We'll quickly do the antenna detailing. So I'm just going to go ahead and do like a big line of white, like so. Big line of white. Sounds like a party. Get it? Anyways. Okay. Just gonna hit the back side of this. Now I do it this way because then for me it's a lot easier to just kind of do a little black space in the middle of the whites, so I can get kind of like the two white bands as the detailing highlight on this antenna. So I'm going to do the two white bands on this one, and then there's just going to be a single one on the tip of the other one. I love doing these little details. They pop and stick out so nicely. It's also a nice way to remind you that you have antennas on your miniatures, because when you're at arm's length, something that is very skinny and black doesn't always show up in your vision that well. Luckily for me and anybody else who picks up these miniatures, these are not pokey wires. This is some bead-along bead stringing wire. last stream. I'll just pop it onto the screen quickly here. This stuff right here, it's pretty good to go. It's flexible, but stays relatively stiff. And takes paint very well. It's got like a plastic sheath around a bundle of very, very fine wire. Oops, let's get that into focus. Just trying to reinforce the white here. So I'm doing white over black, so it does take a couple layers just to make sure it's nice and even. But luckily, because it is white ink, it's pretty punchy on the pigments. Okay, we're just about good here, I think. Major Snake 44, thanks for the follow. What's the story behind the name Major Snake? Tell me that. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and grab some black ink, and we're just gonna turn this bad boy sideways. I'm just gonna find where the middle seems like to. Actually, I'm gonna clean up this bottom edge quickly. There. Now I'm going to find the middle. Just going to fill it out. There we go. Maybe just slightly more, just like that. Okay. Now I'm going to kind of rotate and try to continue on the same path. I'm going to clean up the bottom edge of this a little bit there. I think I made a bit of a boo-boo on that left side. We'll see. I guess the bottom. No, I think we're good still. Let's go ahead and rotate this. Just this. Clean up this bottom edge slightly again as we move through. Just like that. Just gonna apply a slight bit more black ink to my brush, and let's rotate the. Okay, we can kind of see where they adjoin on either side, so I'm going to use that as my guide. Okay, I think we're about good. I'm just going to clean up on the short antenna. Just going to clean up a small amount on the back side here near the bottom. I just want to sharpen it up. Ooh, got a little chunk of pigment there. Pull that off. Okay, let's get a steady look at this. Boom. Looking decent. Just a simple detail, but it looks so good. Nice. Alrighty. I'm just going to go ahead with, I have a little quick plan here that I want to, I'm going to use some Cryptic Armor Shade. It's a gloss. I don't really care that it's glossy right now. It's going to end up being matte in the end. If I can get this back and it's a little older. Okay. So what I want to do is I just want to create little streaks of it down the side of the wall. You can kind of treat this like an acrylic streaking grime almost, except I'm doing like the very fine. I'm just going to stipple and tap. just like that, just a few streaks. And then I'm going to go ahead and thin down a bit of this black wash and kind of wipe all over the whole wall, just to darken it slightly and add a little bit of variation. Cool. I think that's about good for that. Let's do the base rim black. I think we'll call this an evening. We'll clean up the canopy next stream on Friday evening, as we will be doing a stream on Friday evening, a short one, 2 to 3 hours, and I will still be doing my regular scheduled stream on Saturday. Yes. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and add my little bigger handle on. It's just going to help me in me applying my black ink. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of do side on. I love doing this towards the end of the basing just because it, makes that vignette look complete. Some people like using ground cover colors for the base rim, like browns and stuff like that. I personally just like the black. I think it kind of, I don't know, just gives a nice finished look to it. I'm certainly not averse to like a nice 90s style goblin green base rim, but just not what I go for that often. I used to do a lot of like browns and tans for my base rim colors, but over the last 2 years or so I haven't really entertained that. I love doing this, it's just going side on with the brush. It's just an easy way to keep a nice clean edge along the side of the base rim. These are MDF bases, and they have little magnet stickers on the bottom. These are the heavy duty ones from Litco. Same with the bases, they're 40 millimeter bases from Litco. And these are the heavy duty magnetic base bottoms. And they work pretty well. I mean, this is a pewter miniature, and it's on my magnetic base. Pretty confident with keeping it on here too, so. If I was dry brushing aggressively, I'd probably take a little bit of extra care, but not bad, not bad. Okay. Go ahead, rinse that out. Okay, turn this around to the front. Some of the base rim is still drying. Touch up a small area on this side. I guess I should get the touch up in camera, in frame rather. There. Some of it's still drying, but it's looking pretty good. Really love doing that black around the base, just to kind of see everything. Just those small details on the wall, like it doesn't take much, but it adds a little bit of visual interest. And that barrel's looking a lot more dingy and rusty. Loving it. Really like how these saw blades have come out. And just the metallics in general. Pretty pleased with this. Alright. Take a look at the arm. With the rocket pod. Pretty simple. Nothing fancy. Some basic weathering. and of course the autocannon. Pretty happy with how this is coming out. Still a bit of refinement to do, and I want to add a little bit of I think I'm going to add a little bit of kind of glow OSL effects just around the edge of the front of the receiver housing. Probably do like a nice vibrant red as well as a dull red, but that'll be for next time. Same thing with the canopy. I think next time is going to be tackling the canopy and then doing final touches on this, and painting that little spotlight on the left shoulder of the mech, and then that'll be it. We'll call that one complete. Very happy with how this is coming along. Okay, I'm going to transition over to the desktop, do some closing remarks, answer any final questions from anybody who's still left in the chat, and then I will bid you adieu. Bear with me. Well, kind of awkward. I just realized I had the wrong mic going for like the last little bit. Hope you folks can actually hear me. All right. Just realized that I had the wrong mic on for the majority of this. I don't even know if any sound was coming through from my voice audio after that last break. I'll have to check. That's okay. I'm tired. Major Snake 44. Thanks for coming through, man. Sorry if you couldn't hear me. Yeah. Growing pains. Still learning this whole streaming thing, folks. Well, I had a lot of fun painting tonight. I'm definitely intending on running another short stream on Friday evening. Probably also from 8 to 11, or even just 8 to 10. We'll see. Definitely still running a stream on Saturday evening, though it might be slightly shorter. I do have my mom coming in from out of town to visit. I want to pay my due respect. She's coming across the country. But I will still run at least a shorter stream on Saturday. Hopefully by then we can tackle some trains. Sorry, I was under my son's name, so you told me you were streaming and to check it out, getting ready to see this with myself at work. Yeah, Psycho Killer Mike, awesome. Well, awesome, I got 2 follows out of that. I'm not mad at that. Okay. Well, thank you folks for spending time with me this evening. I'm going to go ahead and check the audio after I finish this and see how garbage that was for the second half of the stream, but we'll make sure that is good to go for next time. Thank you very much for spending your night with me. Have a good night. My name is Zach. You've been watching Arclight Miniatures. Happy little painting session. Until next time, happy hobby.